And we're recording.
All right. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Corey Center. I am the innovator here to make the world better, here with my three favorite leaders, Linda Patton, Tony Thayer, and Terry Ann Richards. We are here today to talk about celebration and why celebration is so important to leadership. So I'm going to have each one of these wonderful individuals introduce themselves and answer the question, why is celebration important as a leader? So Terry Ann, will you please kick us off today?
I feel like you did that because I leaned in.
Totally.
So I am Terry Ann Richards. I hail from New Brunswick, Canada. I've been in business for myself for 16 years and have owned and operated 8 different organizations across different industries. Over the last 3+ years, I've been a business coach for leaders and entrepreneurs, and I work with a process that I like to call inside out leadership, basically working on individuals from the inside out. That if you're trying to grow your business, grow that personal glass lid, you need to work on what's on the inside first before you can work on the outside. Did you ask me to introduce myself and talk about celebration?
I did do those things.
This is one of those really squirrely moments for me, folks. I was looking at Linda's outfit and I was looking at how it matched with Tony's and then how I blend it well. That's literally where my head went when you were starting to do your introduction. So I digress.
Celebrating the wardrobe.
Yeah, I was just like, we're just such a well-dressed group. I'm really digging this right now. So anyway, so celebration. You know what, when you're setting goals and you're putting things in front of you, typically people are putting goals that are 6 months out or a year out, or, you ever hear someone like, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? That's a really long ways away. And it can be very discouraging along the progress, the progress that you take to get to the success of that goal, that you're not there yet, right? You've set a goal that's further down the line than right here and right now. And like it or not, we're an instant gratification crew. That's society. That's how we're built. And it's in celebrating the milestones, celebrating the small wins that get you closer to the big goal, that you help to maintain or even just achieve like motivation and excitement, and that it keeps that momentum. It's the catalyst for growth within an organization, both for just you as a leader, but also it's the way in which to keep a team motivated is by celebrating the small things, right? Like if you go to the gym every single day for the next 365 days, over the first 3 weeks, you might not see very big changes, but it's, on week 4 and week 12 and, week 20 something, you're going to have these little milestones that are super exciting. And you got to celebrate the fact that you are on a journey, and success is, really not a destination. It just is a journey. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, TA.
No problem.
And Tony, please tell us a little bit more about you and your leadership and why celebration is so important to leadership.
My name is Tony Thayer, and I'm out of Berkeley, California, and I help managers become brilliant leaders who suddenly understand what to do and where to focus their attention to turn their average team into a brilliant tribe. And celebration is a great example of one of the things I focus on, which is neuroscience. And I always like to start off with what's called the negativity bias. It's just the way we're wired, and we've been wired for 40,000 years, is we tend to worry about danger and not celebrate the good. And the way this is commonly described is that the way our minds work, bad things stick to us like they're coated in Velcro, where good things slip away from our attention like they're coated with Teflon. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly focused on what's not going right. What do we have to do, what the problems are, and it really diminishes the mood that we have, and the mood is having a good mood is what makes us, is that a Zoom bomb? And we were just talking about Zoom bombs before this started.
Tony, I feel like you have to now explain, like you just stopped and just explained what you just said.
Right.
Just before this call, for those of you watching, one of us had just experienced a Zoom bomb on a different Zoom call. And so we were all kind of laughing about it. But I was worried that we might be on the same password as that one. But yeah, there's this negativity bias, and we tend to get wrapped up in like what we have to do and how we have to protect ourselves. So celebration is the way that we get back to feeling happy and to like taking that Teflon coated good stuff and bringing it back into the center focus of our attention.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the neuroscience that you always bring. And for those of you watching that don't know what a Zoom bomb is, that's essentially when people jump in your Zoom room and post lots of naughty things that distract and kind of destroy your call. And one of us had that happen earlier today, and we had literally just talked about it. And then a super loud motorcycle went by outside. So senses are a little heightened when it comes to being hacked on Zoom, essentially. All right, coming back, Linda.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit more about who you are and why celebration is so important as a leader.
Hi, I'm Linda Patton, and I am a confluential leadership mentor and trainer. And I coined that word from the harsh command and the soft influence and brought them together to create a beautiful dance between the two and really enhancing people's leadership. I'm an international speaker. I've written 10 books, most of which have been international bestsellers. And I love to work with people on leadership and really see them grow and change and really step into it and being strong and powerful as a leader. So it's where I get my joy. As far as celebration is concerned, okay, I'm going to do this blatant. I wrote The Art of Herding Cats, Leading Teams of Leaders, and it's a 12-step program for reluctant leaders. And the last step is celebrating the milestones and accomplishments. So exactly what Terry Ann said and what Tony referenced. But I started out with Kool and the Gang and their song Celebration, which starts out, celebrate good times, come on. And I feel that we celebrate when we're little, when we're kids, we celebrate everything. We celebrate getting up in the morning, getting out of bed, everything that your parents can think of to celebrate with you, every milestone. You know, the baby burps and you celebrate it. The baby takes their first 20 ounces and you celebrate it. And I won't go into the other things that go on after that, but we celebrate that first year. It's like every moment we celebrate. And then as the child gets older, we have milestones, we have birthdays, we have Christmas, we have other things where we celebrate. But we've stopped that celebration of, as Terry Ann says, the little things that happen every day. We just don't do them. It's like, it's expected that we're going to have these things and we don't need to celebrate or don't want to. The other fear is, I don't want people to know that I just accomplished this. And I think on our last call, we talked about planning and, you know, when you hit milestones, having other people be able to see that so that they can do exactly what TA said, which is celebrate it. You know, come up and slap people in the back and tell them how great it was that they finished this, that the team lead can have a celebration with or without adult libations, just to be able to let people know we made it here and now we're at the next step, so that, you know, as you're moving through the stars in the sky to get to whatever constellation you're going to, that you celebrate each one of those. And of course, then there's always the challenge of how do you celebrate? And we can talk about that later.
That was actually giving me my next round of questions for everyone. So the big why that we're really landing on here is if you don't celebrate, it's really easy to get tied down in the weeds, right? It's really easy to get lost in the details and forget, like, hey, we're up to some big things here. We're doing some good in the world. We're serving people. We're making people's lives better. By taking that time to celebrate and remind ourselves, like, hey, we're doing good stuff. Hey, we're all moving forward together. This thing is coming together. It may not be done, but another step is complete. We can keep the mindset up and keep focused on what really matters. And now there is that really crucial question of how. And what I love about having the three of you here together is you all have a slightly different way you work with teams. So Terry Ann, as an entrepreneur, when it comes to celebration, what are some ways that you as an entrepreneur would celebrate like with yourself and potentially with contractors, et cetera, since you're more of an army of one when it really comes to your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been blessed in my career to have individuals like yourself that I get to work with that are from all over the globe. So that's definitely put some pep in my step over the years. But one of the things that have really worked for me is to always have like a clear image of like what's the end goal, but to know what, you know, sort of like the how steps, you know, what are the things on the in between to get you from A to Z, and then to get excited when they're done, right? And whether that's just, you know, celebrating and smiling with the crew, or saying like, hey Corey, you know, you did a bang up job on that article you wrote, it really helped, it really put some, you know, some oomph in my marketing, whatever it is. You know, it's, I guess very similarly, it's just kind of having like an attitude of gratitude in terms of, you know, the work that you're doing, right? But also the work of the individuals that are around you. I utilize that a lot in my coaching practice as well, right? I have individuals who are coming to me for business coaching, and we set goals. But in order to set goals, we then have a plan and we track it. Well, to track it, there's little milestones along the way, and I'm giving them virtual high fives when they've met this milestone and when they've met this milestone and that one and that one. And there is a momentum that's created when you know I started here and I'm now here, right? You'll never think with the mindset of being here again. And now I'm here, and next week I'll be here. And so for me, it's just, I don't know, I get excited about the little things. You know, I remember when I was younger, my mom used to say, don't get excited about the little things, but I like to get excited about the little things because the little things matter, because it's all of those things that add up to the big things, right? So yeah, so for me, it's just maybe an attitude of gratitude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Being grateful and being personal about it, right? Like really something that's meaningful to the other person that you're celebrating, right? So it's not just a random like, hey, good job team, and now we're out. It's like, hey, this specific thing you did really mattered and I noticed and it was awesome. And just sharing that little nugget of personal connection and gratitude goes a long way. Thank you.
Yeah, and here's the other side, know your audience too, right? Like I think most leaders need to understand personality types. There are certain types of leaders, individuals that are on your team that like a shout out publicly. And then there are other ones that it actually is more genuine and means more to them if you take them aside and you give them that quality feedback that they really need to hear. And you need to know your audience, right? Because again, there's just, they're two different types of individuals.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Tony, when you're working with teams, since you have more of a managerial and like kind of on the ground with teams experience, when it comes to celebration in that atmosphere, how do you go about celebrating in a way that's really meaningful for the whole team?
Well, yeah. With my different background, it still comes down to what Terry Ann just said. Gratitude is sort of the central focus of it, I think. And knowing your audience, like meeting people where they are is so important too. Like some people want to shout out in public, others want more of a personal thing. And it's just about bringing both the accomplishment and the being nature of how we are at work. So I like to bring a little vulnerability in and just appreciate somebody for who they are. And it's like, whether I'm coaching one of my clients one-on-one or whether I'm working in a group, it's just like, God, I'm so glad that you're here. I appreciate how you inject humor into our conversations, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever that personal thing is, that's a characteristic of that person, and offering some praise. I love a quote that Richard Branson is famous for: flowers flourish, just as flowers flourish on water, people flourish on praise. And to just be able to liberally water the environment or the climate that you're in, and let people know they're appreciated, and what they've accomplished is appreciated, but who they are is appreciated. And that's just, there's so many opportunities to do that every day. And even like an end of the week review meeting can just, you know, focus on like what's working right, what's not working, what can we do to make what's working right. But in the midst of a conversation like that, there's so much room for celebrating all the things that are going well.
Absolutely. And by celebrating all those little things and being in that space of gratitude, when you do have to talk about the things that are not working, I imagine that's a much easier conversation, right?
Yeah, and when you're talking about what's not working from the point of view of like, how can we make that work rather than punishing somebody for not having done something, it really opens up the field.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. And Linda, so you've led more of the corporate and military type teams. When it comes to actually celebrating, what are ways, like how do you celebrate in that kind of atmosphere in a way that reaches people?
It's interesting, Corey. We did some interesting things. We would have potlucks. And I had a bunch of people in my training department in Southern California, even in the military, who the idea of bringing in their favorite dish, something that their mother created, whatever it is, and we got a chance to taste it and experience it and really celebrate the person who created this, was always a way that seemed to resonate with everyone. The other thing that I tend to do is try and find out, what do they like to get? What kind of, we talk about milestones and this kind of, what would they like to see? Do they want something tangible? So I had a group of people who liked dog tags. And we had different colors for different levels of dog tags. This will resonate with Tony in his dojo. It's like the belts in martial arts. And you'd get bling on the dog tag based on the things that you'd accomplished. Now, what I always thought was interesting was they didn't know what the bling was for. I mean, they had a list of things that they were supposed to do, but if I had seen something really special on that particular level, I might give them a couple of extra blings. And it was just really kind of cool. And they would wear them to our retreats. And, everybody was proud of the fact that, they had their dog tags and they were moving on and who's got the most. And it's fun to watch adults be competitive that way. And I'm someone who likes physical things. I mean, the one thing I love about Toastmasters is that I get certificates of participation. I get certificates when I finish things. I get certificates when I speak at the International Speech Contest. I get plaques and ribbons, and I'm just that kind of gal. And so finding out what really floats the boat of the rest of the people on your team, you can then provide sort of that level of, this is where you are, this is what you're doing, this is how you're doing. And the whole team can get involved in it. They can actually get some competition running in it if they choose. But I like that tangibleness to it, recognizing, as all of you have, that some people don't want to be recognized that way. And so to find what really floats their boat is as important as what is it that I'm actually going to be giving them and how am I going to recognize them.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to shut my video off. As all of you can see, the sun just came in the window for me and it's actually distracting even me to look at the video. So the rest of this one, I'm going to leave my video off, but I assure you I am still here.
Okay.
So now that we've looked at how to celebrate, one thing that I know has made a huge difference in my life, both in business and just in my personal life and relationships, is starting a gratitude practice. I know, Linda, you and I have talked about this a little bit, but first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I sit up, I put on my glasses, and I grab a notebook and pen. It's always next to my bed, and write down 3 gratitudes, 3 things I'm grateful for before I do anything else in the day. Sets the tone for the day in a whole new way. I would love to hear about what people can do at home to really start getting into that space of gratitude and that space of celebration. So as we close up today, I'm curious, what are some daily celebrations that our listeners are potentially missing that could really make that difference if they just started celebrating those little things? And as everyone is thinking, loading, Terry Ann, looks like you got done loading first. So parting thoughts, how can people really start bringing celebration into their lives right now in a way that's going to be powerful?
You know what? So I think there's 2 pieces of advice I'd give. I remember years ago, I was probably in my early 20s as an entrepreneur. I used to go to those motivational talks, like there'd be like a local speaker and they'd get a room full of people. And I don't remember the woman's name, so that I apologize for. But she used to say, every time you have a negative thought about yourself, scream in your head. Don't scream this out loud, okay? Scream in your head, big X on that. And she had a French accent, big X on that. And so that was the first piece of advice that was ever given to me that I thought, that's pretty cool. Because here's the deal. You have 80,000 thoughts that go through your head every single day. And about 80% of those are negative. And a lot of them are not original. They're the same thoughts you thought yesterday and last week and the week before and a year ago. So big beginning of changing your life is just to acknowledge where you might be mucking up, right? When you're saying something. So that would be number one. And then number two, for every moment you have that, think something positive right away. Change, like switch, and I'm sure Tony could talk a lot more to that, but like rewire those pathways. It's like, I could never do that. I could never show up for a Toastmasters and, do this talk in front of, 50, 100, and 150 people. Big X on that. I could totally like beat that, kill that, do, whatever your wording is, I could win at a Toastmasters function and they could throw a topic at me and I could do that amazing. Instantly switch it. And so for me, it just becomes a practice like every day. And I still have negative thoughts every day. Every day I have a negative thought. I literally say in my head, big X on that. And I think I even have a French accent. And then I instantly adjust it with, well, what can I do? Like, what is my affirmation of what I can accomplish? And, I think for the most part, it really has helped to push me outside of my comfort zone to do things that I guess I never thought were possible. Yeah.
Awesome. So when you have a negative thought, when you have a thought that says, I can't, stop and focus on what you can do.
Yeah.
And don't let that be self-depreciating. Right? Yeah. We want to make that switch because as you make that switch, what you're actually teaching is you're teaching your mind to focus on what's positive. Conversely, if you don't do that and you let yourself dwell on the negative, you will actually damage your brain and your ability to process information. You can look this up later, but it is a true story. The longer you focus on the negative and the things that bring you down, the problems and all of that stuff, the more you wire your brain to think that way, the harder it is to actually be in a space of gratitude and celebration. Good news is, if you're out there and you're like, shit, I've been locked in that pattern for years. I was too. It can change, and it can change starting right now by doing what TA just said. When you notice that negative thought, stop. And if it's been ingrained for you for a long time, you may use the physical word stop for a little while. You're in quarantine time, nobody's going to hear you, or the people that are around you are going to be okay with it. Let yourself have that, stop, change your thinking, and create new pathways of positivity. That being said, I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter, Tony. When it comes to really getting in that space of celebration and gratitude, what can people do right now to make a difference in their life?
I'm almost tempted to say I'm going to take a pass because I found what Terry Ann just said was so inspiring and aspirational. It's almost seems like a disservice to dilute it with something I might say. But, that was awesome. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, so I said that thing about the negativity bias, and there's sort of, I'm going to sort of tack onto that because there's this sort of sense of care and nurturing that comes into the celebration that I want to underscore. And that's like, just as a team leader and as a coach of leaders, I like to dwell on the idea of asking the question, what would light up my people? Like, what do they need? Terry Ann earlier talked about how some people like to be called out in public and others like to be pulled aside and given a more personal kind of acknowledgement.
Right.
But to counteract that negativity bias, the fact that we tend to get caught up in the Velcro nature of the negative, tend to stick on it, that nurturing thing is the leader, whether you're a leader of your own mood and your own self or a leader of a team, it's like this nurturing, like, how can I bring up the mood? How can I bring up people to where they're positive and remembering the stuff that keeps slipping away? And just asking the question, it's like, what would make my people feel good right now? Or what would make me feel good? Corey, what you do with your practice every morning is a nice way of starting the day feeling good, being focused on the positive.
Awesome. So be looking for ways that you can find the positive in a moment. And the best thing about that is, no matter how negative a situation, no matter how challenging, no matter where you are, you can almost always find the positive. And if you can, it can change the entire situation. And that is called responsibility. Being able to affect change in a situation by recognizing what is actually needed and taking that action. So thank you, Tony, for highlighting that. Greatly appreciate it. And Linda, what is one thing people can do at home to really start bringing this energy of celebration into their life in a way that's going to change things for them?
Well, I guess I want to tag off of Terry Ann and Tony. I love the stop. I use cancel, clear before, and then move into what's the positive thing that I want to. So it shuts it off and gets me to move on elsewhere. What I found with my team years and years and years ago, I had a team of 20 trainers that traveled most of the week. So they were in Monday morning and then got on the road, and I didn't see them again until Friday. And in order to really get an atmosphere of celebration, I started this early on, and I said, you know, we have a rabbit warren in the back of cubicles where you all hide out and everything else. And for me to get coffee, I have to walk through the middle of it. I want you, when you see me walk in, to think about the best thing that happened to you this week. What was the most positive thing that you experienced, you did, whatever. You don't know who I'm going to stop and ask to, in essence, report on it. But you all have to think about it, because I could come up to you and want a response like right now. And what my team said to me was, because I had done that, every Friday, they got a chance to pat themselves on the back for something that they had done and the positive impact that they had on the people that they were teaching. And they said, you're right. We don't know when you're going to stop and ask us, but we all have to be ready. None of us wanted to have to, but they wanted to be ready. And they said, you know, it's a great way for us to be able to be grateful for the things that we had done during that week. You know that I do a gratitude journal, but I do it at night, at the end of the day, before I go to bed. It's a way of clearing my head of you know, all the things that were going on during the day. And I have a t-shirt that says, I define me.
Awesome.
And it's how I feel about the negative thoughts and how you bring the positive thoughts back in. It's, I define me. No one else does.
You know what I love, Linda? That we've been hanging out this long, and I didn't know that you did the best thing that happened. So when I start any facilitation with my groups that I'm working with right now, that is how I start it, every single one. Mine are 14-day stretches. So what's the best thing to happen in the last 14 days? And it's always funny when I do this for youth, because they're like, nothing. Right? Nothing. I'm like, and so I'll be funny with it. And I'm like, so you're telling me right now in the last 14 days, hanging out with me at this very moment isn't the best thing to happen to you? And they're like, okay, yeah, that'll be it. But it's like slowly getting them prepared to, like, I'm like, every week, guys, when you show up, that is the question I'm going to ask you, and I need an answer. And they get to that point where they're like, well, I did anime, or I did this, or I did that. It's such a great question. It's such a simple question.
It is. Yeah.
It is. And what I love in that is that you created a mindset in your people. You created the mindset of, what are you grateful for that you did? And that is a recipe to get anybody to grow in a direction that feels good for them. And that's what it sounds like celebration really comes down to. Getting in touch with what your people really need. Do they need a public appreciation? Do they need a private pat on the back? Do they just need a mindset shift so that they can actually be focused on the things that are awesome, that they appreciate? And when you know that, act accordingly so that you can connect with your people, show them that you care, and you can legitimately be in a space to celebrate together. So thank you all so much for being with me here today. This is always one of my favorite conversations to have. Three of my favorite leaders, Linda Patton, Tony Thayer, and Terry Ann Richards. We're talking about celebration today. It has been excellent to be here with you, and we really appreciate that you're taking the time to grow your own leadership because that is going to benefit so many more people. Thank you. We will see you next time.